Good afternoon, everybody. Calm Biker here in the mean streets of Doncaster, just on the bridge over the River Don, as Graham adventures with Woody just ahead of us there on the GSXF 750, and me, I should say I, have just left J&S Accessories. Quite a wasted journey, to be honest. It's really hard to look at motorbikes at the minute, isn't it? I've had this one about 4 years, just over I think now, just 4 years, and I was thinking I miss having a bike with boxes since the Honda CB500X got written off, and this bike, well, somebody once told me you can put a top box on a Z1000 and it's fine, and I think technically you can fit a top box to a Z1000. But it's not fine, it's unacceptable, at least in my eyes. Top boxes don't look good, I don't think, and you don't buy a Z1000 for practicality, you buy it for fun and looks, because it's so divisive. Some people think it's a right ugly thing. Have you got a problem? Oh, he's up at it again. But yeah, so I've been looking for a particular bike, and I went online and I looked at a local place, and they had one. So I went down to the place to have a look at this bike, and they let me in. The place was open, and they let me have a sit on it, and it kind of suited me for size, but they didn't have anything as a demonstrator, and it wasn't the latest model, the one that I was actually after. Lucky me, the one I was actually after got sold and was still on the website when I was looking, but had actually gone. So I looked on another dealership site and they had two, and I said to Graham, I'm going to go up on Saturday, which is today, if you fancy coming along. He went, yeah, alright. And then he sent me a message last night saying, well, sorry, I sent him a message because I checked and both of the bikes he had in stock had been sold. So he said, well, there's another place nearby, we could go to that one. It's like, great, we'll go there. And then we found that was by appointment only because of the coronavirus. So that was off. And we said, well, there's one at J&S, so let's go and look there. So we went to J&S, and we went in, and first thing we saw was another GSXF 750, though weirdly labelled as a GSXF 650. And Graham went around the back of it and he wanted to show me the suspension collapse, so he starts pressing down on the back of the bike just to show me there was no movement in the monoshock at all. And that was the first bit of trouble we had, because we heard from the other side of the showroom, hey, can you stop touching the bikes please, we have to clean them. And apparently now if you touch a motorbike that you're looking at potentially buying, it now has to be cleaned with alcohol to get rid of any potential virus. It's a bit odd, because we actually made us douse ourselves in alcohol before we were allowed in the place, and not in a good way, you know, just putting it on our hands. So we moved away from that one and found the one that I was there to look at, and it looked really nice. It was a good example of what I was after. I suspect it was an ex-demonstrator. It didn't have many miles, it was only a year old. And obviously the price was a bit lower than it would have been for a new one. I kind of looked at it, I thought, well, you know, it's reasonable. There's a bit of wiggle room, hopefully, in the price, but it's worth a look. So I said to the guy, and this is the reason for this video, really. I said to the guy, looks very nice. With the virus, are we allowed to do test rides? And he said, no. All right, okay. And he said, it's nothing to do with the virus, though. It's illegal. Which came as somewhat as a shock to somebody who's test ridden a few bikes recently. And he said, he tried to explain this. He said, what happens now when the tax changed? So you know, if you're in the UK now, your bike has to be taxed at all times. And when you hand over your bike to its new owner, in this case this dealership, your tax immediately stops, and they don't tax them again. So basically the bike isn't taxed until you buy it, and tax it yourself before you ride it away. So he said to me, it's not taxed, so it's illegal. You'll be riding without insurance because you have to be taxed to have insurance. Otherwise your insurance is potentially invalid. So you just can't do it. So we don't do test rides. I thought, well, that's slightly worrying. And I said to him, well, I went to, when I bought the Honda, I went to Castle Motorbikes and they let me test ride one. They put a dealer plate on it. He said, no, that's illegal too. The dealer plate is only for the dealer. And he said, even though I work for the dealer, even I am not allowed to go riding with the dealer plates on. Well, that's not so good, is it? So if he's right, then Castle Honda motorcycles were wrong. And I've also had test rides at other places as well, of various machines. And he's thinking, well, what a weird situation. And I said to him, doesn't this affect your sales? And this is where it got even weirder for me, because it makes no sense to me that this would be a thing. But he said, no, it doesn't affect our sales in the least, because people nowadays find out what a bike is like by watching YouTube. So there you go, it turns out I'm providing a public service all this time that I didn't know. But it all strikes me as a bit odd. How do you now, if that's right, and I asked the question of people who might know more than me, well, I obviously know more than me because I don't know, but if that's right, why would anybody buy a second-hand bike off a dealership? I said to him, why? What, surely this must affect your business. He says, no, you look on YouTube, and he says all bikes nowadays, apart from Chinese bikes, which got Graham's back up, but all bikes nowadays, apart from Chinese bikes, are good. So you don't need to ride them. You can just look on YouTube and see what people say about them and buy one on the back of that. I said to him, I was looking at YouTube of this bike last night, and the first video I looked at, they said it was boring, rubbish, awful, waste of money. And the second and third one said it was awesome. How can you possibly, realistically, look at spending thousands of pounds on a motorbike without test riding it? Now, because this bike is actually something that you can still get new, I can, if I want to, go to a main dealer and book a test ride and do it on a proper dealer bike, which then taxed and everything. So you can do it that way. But if I wanted to buy a bike that was, not a brand new bike, not something you could buy new anymore, then there'd be two things. One is, on them rules I wouldn't be able to test ride it at all, and the other is that I would not buy something that was a few years old without riding it first. Because how do you know that there's not going to be something horribly, horribly wrong with it that you can't tell just by looking? Anyway, I'm pulling in here because I need petrol, and we're also going to have a quick look in the shop. But I'll be interested to get your thoughts on that one, because I think that's quite a bizarre thing, and it feels impossible for it to be right. Anyway, we'll find out in a minute, because I'm gonna, well, not in a minute, but in a while, because I'm gonna deal with this, get me petrol, and then we're off to Rob Speed, which is over there somewhere, about 50 miles. There's Graham. And we'll ask them if they do test rides of bikes that aren't brand new. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe. Bye-bye, Graham. Bye-bye. Hang on, we're not separating here, are we? 2 meters, yeah, well, 2 meters, yeah. But we don't need to say goodbye to each other. All right, safe, everyone. Thanks for watching. And I'll talk to you all again soon.